Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a deep dive today that I have to say seems almost deceptively simple on the surface.
Right.
It's focusing entirely on romantic relationships. And, when most of us think about relationship goals, our minds immediately go to these grand gestures,
Oh, absolutely. The dramatic apologies, the surprise trips to
the
Paris.
huge visible investments of time or money, the things that look good on social media.
And that is exactly what our source material today just done. It throws it into such sharp relief.
It really does.
We are looking at a philosophy that's built on the complete opposite idea, that the monumental love stories, the ones that actually last and thrive, they're not made in those grand gestures.
So where are they made?
They're manufactured day by day, moment by moment. The sources give us this list of 15 extremely simple, almost behavioral level habits.
Microactions, really.
Yes, perfect word.
Yeah.
Daily micro actions that are claimed to be the only true sustainable building blocks for making love resilient and strong.
And I think that's our mission statement for this deep dive. We really need to analyze why. Why are these 15 simple, small, daily habits presented as the essential, durable structure of a thriving relationship?
It feels counterintuitive.
It feels completely counterintuitive because we're so conditioned to believe that meaningful change requires this massive, dramatic, intense effort. We save up all our energy for a big burst of positivity, and then we coast.
We coast. And what's so fascinating here is that the core philosophy in the source directly challenges that whole intensity-driven view of love.
How so?
Well, the final message just encapsulates it perfectly. It says, strong relationships are not built in one day.
Okay, we've heard that before.
But listen to the rest. They are built in small moments, simple words, and gentle actions. And that one sentence it shifts the entire focus away from a one-time investment to a continuous, low-level daily effort.
That immediately puts the focus on patience and discipline, doesn't it? The instruction isn't go fix everything in a weekend retreat. It's to engage with these habits, and I'm quoting here, slowly, patiently, and your love will grow stronger.
It sounds like an investment philosophy.
It sounds exactly like an investment philosophy. It's like the daily contributions, no matter how small they seem, are the things that eventually yield these massive returns through compounding interest.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the emphasis here is entirely on process over event.
An event being the grand gesture.
Exactly. The massive gesture, the grand date night, that's an event. It's temporary. It might temporarily cover some emotional debt, but doesn't solve the structural deficit.
But a process.
A process, which is defined by daily consistency, fundamentally changes the climate of the relationship. We so often look at these spectacular success stories, these amazing couples, and we forget the daily maintenance they require.
So if the grand gesture is like winning the lottery once, which is exciting, I'm not gonna lie, then these 15 habits are like diligently, maybe even boringly, contributing to a retirement fund every single month for 30 years.
Yes.
The first one is a great story. Second one is what guarantees a secure future.
That is a perfect way to frame the difference. And that reliability is what generates psychological safety.
Say more about that, psychological safety.
Well, we crave predictability in our intimate lives. I mean, think about it. If your partner is capable of immense kindness and these huge, wonderful gestures, but those are followed by weeks of emotional neglect or just coldness.
Right, the whiplash you mentioned.
The relationship is ultimately unstable. It's the constant, gentle drip feed of positivity, the complete opposite of volatility, that strengthens the bond over time.
So let's start with that central paradox of this entire list, because I think it's why people really struggle to implement these ideas.
Oh.
These habits are so easy. The source uses the words easy and small over and over again. We are literally talking about saying good morning.
Or washing a single dish.
Right. But if they're so easy, why is the average relationship so often deprived of them? Why do we prioritize saving up for the big, flashy actions over these small, daily kindnesses?
This raises, I think, a profoundly important question about human psychology. We often equate value with difficulty or visible cost. If a habit is simple and it's free, we unconsciously devalue it.
We think, oh, I can always do that later.
I can do that later, or that's not important enough to focus on right now when I have these huge problems at work. The actual difficulty in mastering these 15 habits isn't in the execution.
Anyone can say thank you.
Anyone can say it. The difficulty is the consistency, especially when it feels unnecessary. or even demanding when you're tired.
That is the crunch, isn't it? When life is smooth, when everything's going well, these habits are often they're automatic byproducts of a good mood.
Sure, they're easy though.
But when that external pressure mounts, you've had a tough day at work, there's financial anxiety, you haven't slept well, that is exactly when we let the small things slide.
And that's precisely when the relationship needs those structural supports the most.
Because your emotional tolerance is at its lowest.
Right. You can think of this in terms of accumulating, let's call it emotional debt.
Okay, I like that. Emotional debt.
If you skip a good morning or a thank you or a moment of just listening,
Yeah.
you haven't just achieved zero for the day. You've often accumulated a small amount of relational debt.
The partner unconsciously registers the omission. They feel it, even if they don't name it.
They feel it. And when you do that 5, 10, 15 times a day, those tiny omissions compound into this palpable emotional distance, or a low-level resentment that then requires a huge stressful event, a big fight, a crisis, to finally address it.
So the single good morning is negligible, but skipping 365 good mornings in a row creates an environment where indifference just becomes the norm. The omission isn't just silence, it communicates a lack of intentional prioritization.
Absolutely. The analysis of the source's closing message perfectly illustrates this compounding idea. Strong relationships are not built in one day.
Which we've all...
But it's critical because it forces us to zoom out. A single positive unit, a simple "I understand" or a gentle touch, is negligible on its own. But when you accumulate those positive units, say 15 daily units of kindness multiplied by 365 days.
You're generating thousands of intentional positive acts per year.
Thousands. And that accumulation transforms a minor action into a major structural support. It establishes what we call an emotional climate.
It's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about establishing this baseline of psychological safety that the relationship can always fall back on, even during disagreements.
Precisely. The goal, as implied by Half at 15, is building a safe, loving home. And I mean, imagine a home that has high volatility.
Okay.
Sometimes it's luxurious, sometimes the ceiling leaks, and sometimes, the walls fall down.
That sounds stressful.
Now contrast that with a sturdy, well-maintained home. The sturdy home wasn't built with one giant event. It was built with millions of small, meticulous actions.
Laying brick after brick, sealing the roof, choosing kind language, and performing gentle actions every single day. The consistency of those gentle actions is what makes the foundation unshakable. It shifts the entire emotional environment from being transactional or reactive.
They're being reliably supportive.
That's the key.
So we're moving from this philosophy of compounding and consistent effort to the actual daily application. And we're starting with how we greet the day and establish that foundation. Because I guess if you fail the morning, you are already starting the day emotionally in the red.
You're already behind. It's much harder to catch up.
The day starts, and this list starts with 2. I mean, they're fundamental, almost primitive actions that really set the emotional trajectory for everything that follows.
Primitive, but profound in their signaling power because they happen at a moment of maximum vulnerability and transition, waking up.
Exactly. So, habit 1, say good morning. The source frames this so explicitly. Start today with kindness. A simple good morning shows care and love.
It's an immediate, tiny act of intentionality, and it prevents the world's demands from entering the relationship space first.
It does. I mean, think about the common, almost destructive alternative.
I know exactly what I'm going to say. Rolling over and grabbing your phone.
Grabbing your phone immediately to check the news or your emails, or instantly launching into a stressful to-do list for the day, or a complaint about the commute.
That just sets a tone of indifference or utility or anxiety.
Right. The moment the phone is prioritized over the person next to you, you have signaled that external demands take precedence. It's a small act, but the message is huge.
Whereas when you start with good morning, especially an intentional warm one, you're signaling, what? Before I deal with the world and its craziness, I acknowledge you.
I acknowledge your existence, I value you, and this relationship comes first.
It's an investment of 1 second that preemptively combats that psychological drift that happens when 2 people just start living these parallel, busy lives under the same roof.
It really is.
But what about the classic problem? When one person is a morning person and the other is definitely not. Is the simple verbal affirmation enough then?
That's where the nonverbal component comes in, which I would argue is often more powerful than the words themselves.
Which brings us to habit 2. Smile at your partner.
Exactly. The source calls a smile powerful. It says it brings warmth, and specifically, it shows you are happy to see them. The nonverbal gesture can often bridge that gap where the words might feel a bit obligatory or strained, especially if you're not a morning person.
That phrase, happy to see them, I think that's the key emotional output.
It is.
A smile is such a clear, non-negotiable sign of positive regard. I might say good morning through a yawn while I'm simultaneously thinking about a difficult meeting I have at 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
But the smile is a direct, nonverbal message that just cuts through all that mental clutter. It's an honest, brief flash of joy at their presence.
And the scientific underpinning is really solid here. A simple, genuine smile communicates, "You are a source of joy for me," or "My day is better because you are in it."
And if we go back to that idea of emotional safety,
The presence of warmth and joy in the morning reassures your partner that the relationship is fundamentally safe and positive before any potential stressor can enter. The morning ritual is like a protective layer.
it ensures that the first emotional contact of the day is warm and affiliative.
Not cold or transactional. You're starting on the right foot.
Okay, so moving beyond that initial greeting, the next couple of habits focus on affirmation and validation. So the act of seeking out and naming of positive things.
Yes, moving from acknowledgement to active appreciation.
Habit 3, give a small compliment. And the source provides these specific, really easily executable examples. You look good today, or I like your smile.
And the term used here is crucial. It says, little compliments make the heart feel safe.
Let's analyze that. Why does affirmation correlate so directly with emotional safety?
The primary function of a compliment is external validation. It confirms a person's perceived worth. This is particularly important because in long-term relationships, it's so easy for partners to start taking physical appearance or personality traits completely for granted.
But here's a question. If I tell my partner they're beautiful every single day, won't that eventually lose its impact? Does it just become noise? Is this about frequency or is it about specificity?
It's about specificity and intentionality. An empty "you look nice" can absolutely become noise over time.
Right.
But a small, specific compliment like, "I love the way your eyes crinkle when you laugh," or "that presentation you gave yesterday was incredibly clear and persuasive," that shows you are actually observing them.
Not just generally approving of them.
Exactly, you're paying attention. And it reduces the need for the partner to constantly seek that assurance or worry about their standing in the relationship. It's preventative maintenance for insecurity.
So the partner realizes, okay, he sees me. He hasn't stopped noticing the little things that make me me. The compliment is really a visibility signal.
That's a great way to put it. Safety is the absence of a perceived threat. And often the threat in long-term relationships is becoming invisible or losing admiration. By keeping these affirmations small and specific, they feel genuine, low effort, and sustainable.
It's a sharp contrast with the big, grand declarations that might feel obligatory or rehearsed after a while.
These small affirmations keep the relationship feeling fresh, not stale.
Then we move from speaking positive things to doing what is, for many people, the hardest thing of all: listening.
Yeah.
Habit 4. Listen without interrupting. The definition of quality listening here is so simple: letting the partner speak and listening fully.
This is often cited by relationship experts as one of the most difficult habits on this list.
Why?
Because it requires profound self-discipline and inhibition. We are constantly primed to formulate our own response, to offer advice, or to insert our own related experience. The force simply states, listening makes connection.
Okay, I'm going to challenge that a little bit. If my partner is talking about a problem, my natural loving instinct is to jump in with a solution or a correction. Isn't trying to solve the problem a sign that I care?
It is a sign of caring, absolutely. But it often interrupts the partner's deeper need, which is for emotional release and connection.
So I'm meeting the wrong need.
You're meeting a need, just not the one they're expressing in that moment. When we interrupt, we implicitly signal that our thought, our solution, or our reaction is more important than the speaker's need to simply be heard and process their feelings aloud.
So the act of interruption essentially hijacks the speaker's narrative.
It hijacks it. It turns the focus from their internal world to your external solution.
So what's being connected is the emotional experience itself, not the problem-solving outcome.
Precisely. The pure act of listening, without any interruption, is an offering of space and attention. It's a way of saying, your experience is valid, and I'm willing to pause my entire agenda just to absorb it.
That's a powerful statement.
It's a kind of reverence for the partner's internal world that makes them feel deeply respected. And here's the mechanism. Respect deepens the trust that their experience matters just as much as yours. It's an asymmetric contribution. You are giving them your full attention for a moment that pays enormous dividends in long-term relational security.
And when people know they have a safe harbor to express themselves.
They are far less likely to bottle things up until they explode.
Okay, the final habit in this sort of foundational mourning and respect block is habit 5, say thank you. And the source insists on gratitude for even small things. We're not talking about big gifts. We're talking about thank you for the tea or thank you for helping me with the trash.
This moves us firmly into the recognition of emotional labor and the unseen maintenance of a shared domestic life.
Yes, the invisible work.
So many essential recurring tasks, making the coffee, doing a chore, managing the budget, they become invisible over time. They cease being appreciated acts, and they just become expected duties. This failure to acknowledge creates what we might call invisibility erosion in a relationship.
Invisibility erosion, that's a powerful phrase. It sounds like the silent destruction of relational equity.
That's exactly what it is, because expectations often breed resentment when they are unacknowledged. If I feel that my continuous contribution is simply a given, that it's a duty with no appreciation, I start to feel like a service provider.
Not an equal partner.
Not an equal partner, and resentment is toxic. It is one of the fastest ways to destroy a relationship from the inside out.
So the antidote is just explicit acknowledgement, even for things that have been happening for 20 years.
The source is crystal clear on the core linkage here. It says, gratitude builds respect.
And why is that explicit acknowledgement so essential, even for the mundane tasks?
Because failure to say thank you turns a voluntary act of service into an expected duty. When you thank someone for making the tea, you remind yourself and your partner that this was a choice. It was a kindness. It was not an obligation.
You're resetting the perception from duty back to gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it changes the entire emotional framing of the act. The task goes from being a burden that one partner bears to an appreciated contribution to the shared life.
And if you feel like your daily efforts are noticed, you are far less likely to feel exploited or taken for granted.
And far more motivated to continue contributing positively.
That respect really is the bedrock. You can't build a strong structure on a foundation of feeling unseen.
You can't. Habit 5 forces both partners to acknowledge the continuous low-level effort required to maintain the relationship and the household, ensuring that that effort remains visible and valued.
So now we transition. We're moving into the habits that are designed to bridge the gap that physical distance and just daily busyness create. We leave that focused morning time and we move into the workday, where two parallel lives tend to diverge pretty quickly.
This whole segment is about actively fighting what you could call emotional drift.
Emotional drift.
Yeah, I like that.
We've established that relationships often don't fail during the big conflict. They fail during the silence.
It's the space between the connection points.
Exactly, the space where you slowly become strangers to each other's daily realities.
So the first tool to fight that is habit 6, send a short message. And we are talking about the ultimate simple digital gesture. The source suggests texts like, I miss you, or hope your day is good. So simple.
And the goal is beautifully simple, but it's incredibly important. It shows you are actively thinking about them even when you're separated. It's an instantaneous injection of connection across a distance. We could call this low-demand intimacy.
I think that term low-demand intimacy is perfect. The brevity is critical here.
It is.
These aren't long emails or calls that demand this immediate heavy engagement and interrupt your focus at work. Right, it's not another task to complete.
They are light, emotional check-ins that take literally 5 seconds to write and send, and they require no immediate response.
And that is exactly how they prevent that emotional drift we were talking about. If you don't send that message, the emotional gap between, say, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. just widens.
And by the time you reconnect in the evening, there's this substantial amount of catching up and refamiliarization required, which can be exhausting in itself.
It's work. The short message acts as a continuous, low-power emotional thread connecting you throughout the day. It just confirms your partner is still on your mind and it maintains that mental closeness.
So when you meet at the end of the day, you don't feel like you're meeting a stranger who's been living an entirely separate life for the past 10 hours.
Right. You might already know they finished that big presentation or that they're struggling with a difficult client.
And that small continuity just makes the transition back to a shared life so much smoother.
It keeps the relationship ledger active and slightly positive throughout the day. It counters the external pressure from work or other obligations by inserting a small, intentional reminder that there is a shared space waiting for them at home.
And that you are thinking of them kindly outside of that shared space?
It just ensures the emotional pipeline isn't completely dry when you walk through the door.
That midday bridge then sets the stage perfectly for the evening conversation, which brings us to habits 7 and 8, which are completely interdependent. They define that required two-way nature of sustained communication.
We've established the continuity during the day. Now we have to ensure the transparency and the depth are still present when we physically reconnect.
So habit 7, share one thing about your day. And the source really emphasizes sharing something small to keep your lives connected.
Again, this is not about a minute-by-minute recap of your entire day.
Which no one wants to hear.
And no one wants to give. It's about consistent presence and transparency. By sharing a small anecdote, a funny thing that happened, a strange interaction, a small success, or a frustration, you are proactively inviting your partner into your world.
You're confirming that your life isn't just compartmentalized away from them.
And the sharing is an act of trust.
It also seems like a defensive mechanism, in a good way. The moment we stop sharing the small, mundane things, we create a void.
Yes.
And when something huge or traumatic eventually happens, sharing that big thing suddenly feels massive and disconnected from the rest of the relationship.
It's jarring.
Sharing the small things proves that the relationship is meant for a shared existence, not just a shared crisis.
Exactly. You are investing in a shared narrative infrastructure. If you only share huge, emotional revelations, the relationship only exists in crisis mode. Sharing the small things creates stability and routine transparency.
But this habit demands a reciprocal action, which is habit 8. Ask about their day. This emphasizes that mandatory two-way requirement for a strong relationship.
It has to be a two-way street.
And the source provides this fantastic three-part process. Ask, listen, care.
This three-part breakdown is so critical because it forces us to recognize the sequential steps of true reciprocity. Most people get the ask part right.
It's automatic social behavior. How was your day?
Right. But they often fail the listen part, or, crucially, the care part. You can ask and listen passively, but if your body language or your minimal response signals indifference,
Like just saying while you're scrolling on your phone?
your partner feels dismissed. The asking becomes perfunctory. It's just a box to tick.
I think the care step is the silent killer here. What does care look like in practice, beyond just listening?
Care is the emotional investment. It's asking a follow-up question. What happened next? It's acknowledging the emotion. Wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating.
It's validating the experience. I can completely understand why you reacted that way.
Yes. It's letting them know their day, no matter how mundane or stressful, matters to you because they matter to you.
And if both partners consistently execute these 3 steps, ask, listen, care, they ensure both people feel seen, validated, and consistently reinvested in the relationship's shared story.
Without this two-way street, the relationship becomes a monologue. One person feels like they're constantly just reporting to an audience that may or may not be paying attention.
And that is inherently unsustainable. We've established the verbal foundation and the communication bridge. Now we move into the language of action, which includes physical connection, shared experience, and deep emotional validation. All critical elements that move beyond just verbal information transfer and speak directly to our sense of safety.
Yes, this section addresses the tangible and the effective parts of the relationship, how we make each other feel secure, useful, and understood. This is where the simple actions carry the heaviest emotional weight.
Okay, let's start with habit 9. Give a warm touch. And the source provides such simple, low-pressure physical actions. Hold hands, a small hug, a gentle touch on the arm.
And here is the profound message conveyed by that physical action. I am here.
Just, I am here.
Touch is the most immediate, tangible proof of presence and safety. It doesn't require words, and it completely bypasses the verbal, analytical brain, sending a direct signal to the nervous system.
So it's not necessarily about intimacy or romance in that moment, it's about regulation and grounding.
That's a great way to put it.
In a moment of stress or uncertainty, a gentle touch on the shoulder provides that immediate, nonverbal assurance, you are safe, we are together. It's a grounding mechanism that confirms affiliation.
Absolutely. The release of oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, is triggered by these simple, non-demanding touches. The critical distinction is that these touches are confirming partnership, not initiating demands.
They're gentle and brief.
Exactly, which makes them easily executable daily rituals that maintain the physical thread of the bond without requiring a specific time slot or high energy. The consistency of that gentle touch guarantees that the partners remain physically aligned, not just psychologically.
And it counters the feeling of physical isolation that busy modern life can so easily impose.
It really can.
Next, we have 2 habits that address emotional climate and practical effort. Habit 10, laugh together. This is about sharing a joke, watching something funny. The goal, laughing makes love feel lighter.
And the emotional implications of lightness are profound.
Yeah.
If the relationship is always serious, always focused on logistics, bills, or problems, it becomes a burden.
Another job.
It becomes another job. Laughter is a physiological response that reduces tension and stress. When you share laughter, you are sharing the ability to mutually reduce stress and share joy together. It creates a unique kind of intimacy built on mutual relief and a shared perspective.
It creates a shared culture of humor. That shared perspective allows you to look at external stress together as a team.
Rather than turning that stress on each other.
Which is so easy to do.
It creates relational resilience. If the only shared emotions are serious ones, worry, stress, disagreement, the relationship becomes emotionally heavy and partners will start to seek lightness elsewhere.
Habit 10 recognizes the necessity of deliberately injecting levity.
It's an intentional practice of positive reinforcement. If you laugh together, you confirm that you are each other's primary haven, a place capable of lightening the load of the world.
Then we shift dramatically to action with habit 11, help with one small task. And the specific actions noted are so small. Washing a dish or bringing your partner a glass of water.
This is action-based love, what's often referred to as acts of service.
Yeah.
And it contrasts so sharply with purely word-based love. We've established the importance of saying thank you in habit 5, but this habit forces action. It proves that the love isn't just linguistic, it's embodied.
It answers the unspoken question, are you invested in my well-being right now, in this physical moment?
Exactly.
I think this habit is so critical because it forces proactive care rather than reactive care. You don't wait to be asked to empty the dishwasher. You spot a need and you fill it, even if it's minimal.
And that proactive care is the difference between a real partnership and just a division of labor. If I see you are stressed and I silently wash the dishes for you, I am taking on a piece of your burden without you having to manage me or supervise me.
Which is its own form of labor.
It's a constant, gentle application of service that prevents one partner from feeling overwhelmed by the domestic burden. The partner sees, not just hears, that you are invested in their well-being and the functioning of the shared home. It is respect translated into physical reality.
And it combats that invisible labor that so often goes unnoticed and unappreciated.
It makes it visible.
Okay, here is where I think the real intellectual and emotional challenge of this list lies.
I think I know where you're going.
Habit 12, say, I understand. We need to do a deep dive into the critical nuance of this habit, which is doing it even if you do not fully agree.
This is it. This is the moment where emotional maturity is truly tested.
It really is.
This is a cornerstone of emotional health. Most people, I think, fundamentally confuse understanding with agreement.
100%.
If I don't agree with your opinion, my defensive cognitive brain feels obligated to argue against it immediately, which prevents me from truly understanding your underlying feeling or your perspective. When we focus on winning the debate, we destroy the connection.
So let's use an example. If my partner comes home and is furious because their boss yelled at them, and I, in my head, think their boss was actually justified, my instinct is to immediately defend the boss or correct my partner's perception, but that's exactly what I shouldn't do.
Silly. If you immediately jump to correction, you've just told your partner that their safe harbor you is a place where they have to defend themselves further. The source is defining a mechanism for conflict de-escalation when it says, understanding creates peace. You don't have to agree that the boss was wrong. You simply have to acknowledge, I understand that you feel frustrated or disrespected or angry by the interaction.
So validation is about affirming the emotion or the subjective experience, their internal reality, not endorsing the factual premise.
That's it.
And the result is peace because the partner feels seen, that critical need we've discussed, even if the issue itself isn't solved yet.
We have to separate the cognitive layer from the emotional layer. If your partner is speaking from an emotional place, they need emotional validation first. If you respond with a cognitive argument, you are operating on two different planes and you will clash every single time.
So you say, I understand that must have felt humiliating.
Yes, that acknowledges the feeling. Then later, maybe you can move toward problem solving or assessing the facts.
This raises such an important question. How often do we withhold understanding because we are focused solely on arguing our own viewpoint? If my goal in the conversation is to be right, I cannot achieve peace.
You can't.
If my goal is connection, I must validate the other person's reality, even if it differs from mine, because that validation creates the safety required for them to drop their defensiveness.
And failing to do this creates profound emotional isolation. If my partner feels that every time they express a negative emotion, they are met with argument and correction, they will eventually just stop sharing.
They'll shut down.
Habit 12 creates a container that is safe for uncomfortable feelings. It is the most challenging, I think, but also the most rewarding habit for navigating the inevitable differences that exist between two separate people.
We are concluding the daily cycle now, moving into the evening, and these overarching principles that ensure long-term health and trust. These final habits deal with the necessary requirements for a sustainable coexistence: autonomy, continuity, and safety.
A powerful trio.
So habit 13, give space. Now this sounds incredibly counterintuitive after 12 habits focused on getting closer.
It does on the surface.
But the source explicitly states a little space is healthy. Why, after all this effort to connect, is stepping back necessary?
This addresses the fundamental paradox of intimacy. Relationships require togetherness, but individuals require separateness. A healthy relationship allows for individuation.
What do you mean by that?
It means recognizing and respecting your partner's need for their own personal time, their own hobbies, or their own separate friendships. And the source provides the crucial connection. It shows trust.
Okay, so how is granting space an active demonstration of trust rather than just indifference?
When you give space without pouting or demanding constant updates or expressing anxiety, you are signaling that you trust your partner to manage their own time, their own interests, and their own well-being without your constant involvement or emotional supervision.
A lack of space often implies suspicion.
Or anxiety, or a dependency that chokes the relationship, which leads to resentment and the feeling of being smothered.
So forcing togetherness out of insecurity only generates a deeper desire for escape.
That's the irony.
Granting space, ironically, strengthens the bond because the partner knows they are choosing to return to the relationship rather than feeling obligated to stay.
Exactly. Autonomy is the ability to choose connection freely, not out of obligation. By allowing for space, you are confirming that your relationship is robust enough to withstand temporary separation. That reinforcement of trust is essential for long-term health.
The relationship should feel like a voluntary, joyous haven.
Not a required habitat. This habit requires the maturity to recognize that separateness does not equal disloyalty.
Then we return to a bookend idea. Habit 14, say goodnight. This mirrors the start of the day with habit 1, and it closes the loop.
Yes.
The function, according to the source, ending the day with love, which keeps closeness.
Just as good morning sets a tone of kindness for the day ahead, good night provides essential emotional closure. It signals that regardless of whatever mini-conflicts, stress, or exhaustion occurred during the day, the underlying bond is intact.
Love is present before that transition into sleep and vulnerability.
That's the key.
It establishes emotional continuity. You are framing the beginning and the end of the day with intentional kindness. You're ensuring that the last communication before vulnerability sleep is one of affirmation and closeness, rather than silence or unresolved tension.
And the absence of this habit can be deeply damaging. Going to sleep angry or indifferent allows that negative emotional state to bleed into the unconscious hours, where the mind may ruminate and exaggerate the day's stress.
Good night, especially if it's preceded by a warm touch like from habit 9,
is an insurance policy against emotional fragmentation. It ensures that even if you didn't resolve an issue, you reaffirm the partnership before hitting that emotional reset button of sleep.
Finally, we reach habit 15, speak kind words. This feels like the overarching principle that unites the entire list.
It absolutely is.
Every day, use soft, kind words.
This is the ultimate outcome that's cited in the source. Kind language builds a safe, loving home. This is the synthesis of all 14 previous habits.
They all require it.
They all require the consistent choice of kind language, whether it's the good morning, the compliment, the thank you, the I understand, or the good night. This habit elevates kindness from just a sporadic act to a foundational expectation of the relationship.
And if your daily choice of words is consistently soft and kind, you eliminate that background static of passive aggression or snark or defensiveness or low-level criticism that so often poisons intimate spaces.
That static is what makes a home feel emotionally unsafe.
A safe home, emotionally speaking, is one where you do not fear judgment or harsh words or contemptuous language.
Exactly. Habit 15 dictates that you must be the primary architect of that safety. You have to ensure your language protects the shared emotional space, making the relationship a haven rather than a battleground. This consistent, gentle language demonstrates the highest level of respect and care.
So what does this all mean? We've analyzed 15 habits. All of them, when you look at them, are incredibly small. A smile, a thank you, an intentional 5-second text message. We've established that the key ingredient isn't intensity or grandness. It is intentionality and, crucially, consistency. These habits don't demand massive resources or time. They demand consistent, gentle effort and self-discipline.
And these habits fundamentally teach us that knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied repeatedly. These 15 actions, when you perform them daily, create a reliable, predictable emotional climate.
They establish safety, respect, and presence.
The true strength of the relationship isn't found in any single habit. It's in the relentless, slow accumulation of positive data points that proves the bond is reliable.
The source instructs us to use these habits one by one, slowly, patiently.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you to consider about the compounding effect.
Okay.
We are taught that massive actions lead to massive results, but here the opposite is true. If you successfully perform all 15 acts of intentional kindness and respect every single day, just 15, how many intentional positive acts will that be by the end of the year?
Let me think. 15 times 365.
It's 5,475 acts of intentional positivity.
Wow. That number over a year, it's astronomical when you consider how often people go days without a single intentional affirmation or act of service.
Now imagine performing that level of accumulated kindness and respect not just for 1 year, but over 5 or 10 years. That cumulative kindness fundamentally changes the deep structure of the relationship. It moves it from a potentially volatile coexistence
to an unshakable fortress of trust.
We encourage you to track that daily accumulation of positivity. Perhaps not literally, but by paying attention to the shift in the atmosphere when the investment is high and consistent. That shift, that rock-solid reliability, that is where true, lasting strength and love is forged.